Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today guys, I'm going to be talking about the disappearance of Andrew Gosden, a 14-year-old boy from England who went missing back in September of 2007. This story is one of the first um cases that really got me into true crime and unsolved mysteries. I'm being genuine when I say I think about this case occasionally. I actually told my mom the full story a couple years ago, and she is actually interested in an update as well. We definitely speak about it often. Without saying anything else, let's jump right into the story. So, Andrew Gosden was a 14-year-old boy from South Yorkshire, England, and his parents described him as quiet, thoughtful, and intelligent. He really seemed like he was a light in their lives. Andrew's parents were Kevin and Glenys Gosden, and he had an older sister named Charlotte, and they all seemed like a very happy, normal English family. So, Andrew was super intelligent. He was actually placed in his school's gifted program for math. He was considered a math genius, and he seemed like he was doing pretty well in the program. He had a small group of friends that he hung out with. So his parents really didn't see any problems. They didn't see him struggling in school. There wasn't any, bullying problems from what they knew of, and that's why this disappearance is even stranger. So on September 14th, the day of Andrew's disappearance, his mother had woke him up for school, and she noticed that he was not in a good mood. He seemed to be in a pretty bad mood, actually, and she said that this was unusual considering that Andrew never was really in a bad mood. He was usually pretty even keeled. So, about 5 minutes after 8 a.m., Andrew leaves his house and starts his walk to school. But instead of walking, all the way to school or catching the bus, CCTV footage catches Andrew walking to an ATM by his house and withdrawing 200 British pounds. So Andrew waits for his parents to leave. He's keeping track of the time to see what time they leave for work, and then heads back to his house when he thinks that everybody's gone. Now, when Andrew gets home, he places his uniform into the washer and changes into casual clothes, which were a slipknot t shirt and some black jeans. With him, Andrew brings his keys, his wallet, and his PSP. And what's weird about this is that he does not bring his PSP charger with him. And he seemed like he was pretty into, his PSP and whatever. So if he was going to be on a journey where he was going to be gone for a while, I'm pretty sure he probably would have thought to bring the charger with him. He also doesn't bring along a coat or a sweater. And this is interesting because this means that he probably thought he wasn't going to be gone all that long. If he was going to run away or whatnot, he probably would have brought at least some sort of warm clothing. I'm not sure how cold it gets in England in September, but I'm sure it's probably, enough to maybe just bring a sweater with you just in case if you're going to be gone for a really long period of time. At 8:30 a.m., Andrew leaves his house and makes his way to Doncaster railway station, and here he buys a one-way train ticket to London. The worker at the station who had sold Andrew the train ticket remembered him, and this is because she told him that for just 50 pence more, he could get a round trip ticket and come all the way back home, instead of buying two separate tickets. But she said that he refused and he seemed adamant that he wanted to just buy a one-way ticket. This kind of makes it sound like um Andrew was expecting that he was going to get a ride home or that somebody was going to come pick him up, because why wouldn't he just buy, the ticket all for the round trip? That's what most people do anyways. But then again, he could have just, been nervous and just wanted to make a plan and stick to it. So at 9:35 a.m., Andrew hops on the train to King's Cross station, and a woman recalled sitting next to him. She said he seemed pretty involved in his PSP, was quiet the entire time. Um 11:20 a.m. is when the train finally arrives at King's Cross, and 5 minutes later we see Andrew on CCTV footage walking on the platform, and that is the last confirmed sighting that we have of him. Now, fast forward to probably early evening. Andrew's family is home, preparing to kind of settle in for the night, and they hadn't seen him the entire day or the entire time they had been home. They figured that he was probably downstairs playing video games or, probably doing some homework or whatnot. So Andrew's mom goes to check on him and she realizes that he's not there. She thinks, at first maybe he lost track of time, he's at a friend's house or something. And after, calling around, seeing, finding out that nobody has seen him, that's when she and her husband decide that they should probably call the police because they need help. So after police and his family start kind of putting together the pieces about where Andrew, where he went to, they review the CCTV footage. That's when they kind of, piece together like, okay, he came home, took a trip to London. Now, where do we go from here? But after putting together all the pieces that they have, from what on this case, there are multiple reasons as to why Andrew could have chose to go to London that day. First of all, Andrew loved London, like he loved the city, and he and his family had gone there multiple times beforehand. So his parents said that he would probably be able to find his way around the city, and maybe he just went to sightsee, take the day off of school. It's happened before, so it really wouldn't really be like unusual or unheard of. Also, the Gosdens said that they knew people who lived in London. I believe they said that his grandmother actually lived in a part of London. So it really wouldn't be strange for him to, feel, more comfortable going somewhere where he had a relative that he could stay with if anything went wrong. There were two concerts happening that day in London. One was by the band Sick, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and the other one was by 30 Seconds to Mars. So they figured maybe Andrew skipped school to go see these bands. But the problem with that is that there was no proof Andrew even liked either of these bands. He was really into heavy metal music. So there are a lot of theories on this case. This is like probably one of like the most famous cases, I'm assuming, in England, because I remember hearing about this case a long time ago and I don't even obviously live there. I've read like a lot of like forums, on Reddit and whatnot, seen like a few videos about his disappearance, and there are about three theories that seem to come up a lot when it comes, to this case. So the first theory comes from Andrew's parents, and they believe that Andrew may have secretly been gay and struggling with his sexuality and, approaching the subject with his parents. They were, they were devout Christians. They went to church every Sunday. So maybe he felt like he couldn't tell them, felt like it would just be better off to just run away, disappear, as opposed to, bringing this up with them. From everything I've seen about this case, um, it seems like the Gosdens were a very open, accepting, and loving family, and would not have had a problem with Andrew being gay. They even said themselves that they would accept him no matter what, and actually reached out to the LGBT community for help in finding Andrew after he disappeared. To me personally, it just seems unlikely from the outside looking in that Andrew just chose to up and run away and leave his family one day. Now, the second theory that I've seen talked about a lot on this case is that Andrew went to London to meet up with somebody that he met online. Going back to when I mentioned earlier that Andrew had stopped taking the bus to school and started walking those couple weeks before his disappearance, this is where this theory kind of comes into play. Andrew may have been choosing to walk to school to meet up with somebody on the way to school and talk to them while he was walking there. Who knows, it was a pretty long walk. I believe they said it was an hour, so he really could have had time to speak to anybody. His parents didn't know anybody that, he could have been talking to on the outside. So the likelihood of him meeting up with somebody with an hour-long walk to school is pretty likely. Also, Andrew did not have any social media that they could find, and he didn't even have an email. Um, the family had just gotten a laptop, a few weeks beforehand, but they couldn't find that Andrew had even used it. Really, only his sister used it. The police contacted the PSP company and asked for records to see if there were any like emails that they didn't know about on Andrew's PSP, or any social media accounts. There wasn't. So if he didn't meet up with somebody, it was more than likely in his day-to-day life as opposed to online. And this was 2007, remember, so the likelihood of him meeting with anybody online outside of email, MySpace, maybe his PSP, in like a forum or something, is pretty small. If anything, he did probably meet up with somebody on his way to school, assuming that this theory is true. earlier that day in the morning when Andrew was marked absent, the school called and left a voicemail at the house, letting his parents know that he was not in school. This is pretty common for most schools actually, but whoever had dialed the number had actually accidentally dialed the wrong last number, and the call went to, a random house somewhere else. The final theory, which is just absolutely heartbreaking to consider, but it's the theory that I personally believe the most myself, is that Andrew, on a whim that day, decided he didn't want to go to school for whatever reason and decided, he had planned this ahead of time to go back to his house, get ready and just go sightseeing in London. And unfortunately, when he got there, he met up with the wrong person. And yeah, a 14-year-old boy out in a major city like London on a random school day at like 11 in the morning would definitely stick out like a sore thumb and would definitely be a opportunity for any predators that happen to be lurking around that area at the time. Andrew's father said that while he was very book smart, very intelligent in school, he did not have a lot of street smarts, and that would probably be a problem if you're a 14-year-old walking around a large city by yourself. Police did a sonar search of the River Thames and they did not find anything relating to Andrew. However, they did find the body of another missing person. A couple years later, at an English police station, somebody had approached the door and pressed the buzzer and told the police officer at the time that they had information on the Andrew Gosden case and wanted to speak to somebody about it. But by the time the police officer got downstairs to let the person in, they had disappeared. Heartbreakingly, Andrew's parents have not changed the original locks on their house in hopes that if Andrew is still alive, he'll be able to take his house key and just come home. And his bank account has not been touched since that day in September of 2007. The Gosdens hold out hope that something, a new development or anything will come about the case. There have been a few developments I've read about, but they weren't really concerning Andrew. They were concerning other children who are missing, in London around the same time. This is what Andrew may look like today. This is an age progressed photo. His mother and father still hold out hope that someday there might be somebody who will come forward with more information to figure out what happened to Andrew. I hope that his family gets the peace and justice that they truly deserve after suffering for so long. That is all I have for you guys today. But if you watched all the way through, thank you so much for watching. Um, Please subscribe if you like my channel or whatever, and I will see you guys next time.